Hey everyone, Sparks back with another Goddess Victory Nikke video. I've been gone for a couple days, or at least had no access to the internet for the last almost 3 days, and we got crazy news. So I'm a little bit late to this, so rather than just giving you a rundown of the news that we got, I want to give you my own thoughts on it and kind of like things that I liked, didn't like, and things to think about. So let's go ahead and get into it. We're talking about Stellar Blade and Nikke. This is the most hyped collab for me personally, and I think this is probably going to be a fan favorite, maybe still behind Nier, but we'll see. This one is looking to be a banger. So right off the bat, when I was watching the VOD of the live stream, when that loading music hit, it was just pure vibes. Like, it's the music from the campsite where you go to like save and upgrade your character in Stellar Blade, and just it felt like home. Like the memories of playing that game, it was so good. But anyway, let's talk about the units. So the first unit, or we're getting 3 units. So we're getting Lily, Eve, and Raven. Notably no Tacky. I'll talk about that a little bit later. So Lily is a burst 2 support with a submachine gun. She is code Wind, and a really interesting kit. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh yeah, she's definitely top tier, but possibly the most useful free unit. I don't know. We'll see. But check this out. So her skill effects, we don't have the full kit, right? But it says Lily is a supporter who strengthens her allies and restores their cover. Her burst skill repairs her allies' damaged cover and enhances their attack power. What other unit does an attack buff and repairs cover? Leader, one of the most busted units in the entire game. So will she be as strong as Leader? Probably pretty unlikely, but still, this is a really promising kit, and she looks super cute. Pretty true to the character design. Definitely got some upgrades, if you know what I mean, but that's kind of like the Nikke all characters that like come to the game, right? Stellar Blade does have attractive characters, but it's not as exaggerated as Nikke, of course. So anyway, some people have conflicting opinions on that, but I think they did Lily pretty well from what I can tell, and I'm excited to see what her full kit says. So now let's talk about Raven. Raven is possibly the most popular Stellar Blade character. She has a huge following. There's a lot of Raven simps out there. I'm personally not a huge Raven fan. Don't get me wrong. I like her. She's a very cool character, has a great design too. Very interesting character. She's just not my favorite. But anyway, she has a pretty cool kit as well. So she is a burst 3 attacker with a rocket launcher, and she is iron type. So we are going to be hitting hard with iron. I've said this multiple times before that iron has like been falling behind a little bit. I mean, we had Red Hood, which of course was amazing, but it's been a long time since Red Hood came out. And we do have Rappy, which is very strong because she can deal strong damage as an iron unit, but technically she has a fire. And so I think, getting more iron type attackers is exactly what we needed. Anyway, let's see what her moves say. Again, not the full kit, but it says Raven is an attacker whose attack power grows stronger whenever she destroys enemy parts. Her burst skill allows her to unleash AoE attacks, further enhancing her own offensive capabilities. This also reminds me of another unit, a lot like A2, which I talked more about her in my kind of overview of the rerun announcement, so link to that video in the description below. Just put that up a few minutes ago. But she's going to do big AoE attacks as a rocket launcher and is really good against parts. That's exactly like A2. Now, will the rest of her kit work like A2? Probably not. It doesn't say anything about like drain her health for like a rage mode or anything like that. But I don't know. It looks pretty cool. I think, any unit that has like a particular strength against like parts or core or something like that is likely to be very useful. Obviously not as useful against certain bosses, but we'd rather have units that have like really strong particular uses versus like, just kind of like universally mid, right? That's also a good way to go with collab characters, because it means like if people miss the collab, they're not missing out on this, like OP character that everybody needs for everything, but they're still very strong in whatever their niche is. So Raven is looking really promising in that regard. And then we have Eve, of course, our main girl, and dang, Eve definitely got enhanced. She got the Nikke treatment for sure. She is also a burst 3 attacker with an assault rifle this time and iron code. So again, getting some more strong iron type attackers, presumably strong anyway. I think that's the right way to go. And let's see what her skill effects say. Eve is an attacker who performs additional attacks when landing critical hits and inflicts debuffs based on the opponent's element. Her burst skill enhances her skills and attack power, allowing her to unleash powerful additional attacks. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. She actually reminds me of my favorite unit over in Etheria Restart, which is Rosa. She does extra follow-up attacks when she crits, so kind of interesting there. I'm excited to use Eve from that perspective, but of course, just as a major Stellar Blade fan, I'm excited for Eve in general. But really interesting kit. So additional attacks when landing critical hits. Now, a lot of times people are tempted to say crit is bad, crit is bad. We don't know how much extra damage she could do with crit. I mean, and this is not about doing critical damage. It's about doing extra damage because she crits. So you could just like ignore the fact that like critical damage isn't good. You could build her for a lot of crit rate and potentially do crazy stuff. Again, we don't know what her kit does, but I think that's a really interesting kit. Like inflicting debuffs on the opponent with critical hits, I think is really cool. And anytime you can debuff the enemy, I don't know, I think this could be a very, very strong and useful character. And then as far as her burst skill, and it does the debuffs based on an opponent's element. So this is kind of interesting. This is what I really wanted to get to about her. Like I mentioned Rappy being strong against both as a fire and an iron attacker. Eve might have a component like that. So she could be good against like all the elements in theory, just doing like different things to each element. I don't know. I think that's really cool. Let me know what you expect that to actually be revealed to be, because I think that could be her, incredibly useful in all kinds of situations. And it says her burst skill enhances her skills and attack power. So, I mean, basically, she's probably just going to get a huge buff, allowing her to unleash powerful additional attacks. Maybe she does additional debuffs as well. Who knows? But very excited. Very interesting looking kit. I think Eve is looking super cool. Okay, what do they talk about next? The new boss in the collaboration, Providence. So Providence is one of the final bosses you can fight in Stellar Blade, and a lot of people said it was the hardest boss they fought. I actually thought the other final boss was far more difficult, but this really fits in because it's kind of got a mech. It works well with the like Rapture theme for Nikke, and the fact that we're getting a completely unique boss is really cool to see. They're not just like reskinning something, and it looks fantastic. It's like all 3D looking, like it's not just flat. Like that is a high quality boss, and I'm really excited to tackle it. Next, they talked about the boss challenge minigame, which blew my mind. Okay, I'm not kidding. Like, you're basically playing Stellar Blade in Nikke. Now, they did say one of their primary concerns when developing this was to make the controls work well on mobile, because obviously they had to simplify things, because Stellar Blade has some fairly intricate combat, and you have to do a lot of like perfectly timed parries or dodges, and like these kind of things could be very difficult in Nikke. But I mean, it's crazy. Obviously the graphics aren't as good, but just to see something like that in the Nikke game is wild, and I did not expect to have like a legit like 3D Nikke Stellar Blade combat in Nikke. That's crazy. I don't know. I had to like rewind the video. I was like, wait, what? Are we looking at like Stellar Blade news, or are we still in Nikke? So very cool. I'm very, very excited for that. They also announced the co-op boss for the collaboration. Of course, it's Gatekeeper. That's what we always bring back for abnormal situations, so that's cool. And then they talked about a Nikke mode in Stellar Blade. Now, we got a hint of this before. We got some things. They also talked about various Nikke Easter eggs. I'll be streaming Stellar Blade once the DLC drops. I'm really excited for it. I'm probably going to be really out of practice, but it's going to be fun to get back into Stellar Blade, and it's cool to see all the Nikke stuff. One of the things is to track down like quote-unquote thieving drones. Apparently that's kind of the plot line for this collab in Stellar Blade. I don't know. You can also do fishing for Nikke dolls as opposed to the normal fish that you can get in Stellar Blade. And there's some like thing where you run around and try and catch Doro in the city of Stellar Blade, which is hilarious, the fact that they actually included Doro in there. And then the main part of the Nikke collab, or at least the most flashy, exciting looking thing, is that in Stellar Blade you can fight against Scarlet, and it looks absolutely cool. We've seen that before, but I'm really excited to fight her. I think that looks like it's probably a really, really fun fight, and I love what they did with the environments. It's beautiful. It's really, really cool. And the devs were talking about how they wanted to do a sword Nikke specifically because Eve uses a sword and it could make for very fun combat. So keep it up, shift up. You're Yeah, it's great. All right, I'm at a loss for words. Anyway, then what else? Oh, so now let's talk about the skins. So we have, let's see, did I take notes on this? Oh, yes. So the skins. So you can get a skin for Eve, multiple skins for Eve, Raven, and Scarlet. So first, there's the normal skin for Eve, and then there's the skin suit for Eve, which is a gotcha skin. They know how they're going to make money. They're like, all right, how can we get all these gooners to drop fat stacks? Oh, let's give them the literal skin suit of Eve. This is not surprising. Kind of saw this coming. Of course, she looks really good. It's, Eve looks amazing in Stellar Blade in this. So we'll see what it actually looks like in full in the game in Nikke. But I'm sure a lot of people are going to get this. I'm going to get everything from this collab. This is, I've been saving up for like all in-game resources and things to drop everything. Then there is also the Neuralink skin for Eve, which I might actually like more. This is a really good skin and one of the more difficult skins to get. I believe this is the one you get by completing all of the boss rush challenge on hard in Stellar Blade. It kind of hits everything. It activates something. Just saying. And you can get that with the pass. So your normal pass is for like $20, where we get all the other resources. That's how you get that. And then there is a Raven swimsuit skin. So in the game in Stellar Blade, Raven never wears this. This is a skin that Eve can wear. But hey, this is possibly, like, I would say my top 3 best skins in the game for Stellar Blade. And so if they're giving it to Raven to give her a cool skin, I'm all for it. I'll be getting this as well. And then there is a Racer skin for Scarlet. It's a gotcha skin. I might have to get this too. This is, again, a top 3 skin in Stellar Blade for me. I'm into racing. The race queens are cool. And I played through the whole Stellar Blade demo in this skin. Dude, I was just like, were they reading my mind through all this? They're like, give him everything he wants, except for one thing. Again, we'll talk about that in a minute. It looks great. It looks great. This is pretty peak right here. Scarlet looks amazing, and might be an excuse for me to actually start using Scarlet again, even though she's kind of fallen off. But great work on that shift up. Okay, so what else? Oh, they just kind of talked about like various rewards, typical collab stuff, and then there was a code, and I'm sure all of you guys have already entered this. Again, I'm late because I didn't have any internet connection, but Nikke Stellar Blade, hopefully it still works for me. I'm about to try and enter it here in a second, and if you haven't, try it as well. Now, for the bad stuff, or single bad thing, there's no Tacky. This is a huge miss. So Tacky is another one of the main characters of Stellar Blade, and I had a feeling they were going to do this. Because as much as I wanted them to add all the characters, I felt like they weren't going to give us 3 gotcha units. And I know a lot of people didn't want that anyway. They were overwhelmed with the part 1 of Evangelion that did that, and so they probably didn't want to do it again. But I'm really disappointed. Tacky is my favorite. And I mean, heck, you see Tacky on my streaming intro screen every week. So you know I love Tacky, and I don't know. Hopefully they're saving her for a surprise part 2 drop or something. I mean, she's a major character. I shouldn't give spoilers because a lot of people haven't played Stellar Blade yet. But you see her at multiple points in the story, and she's just beautiful, and she's got a cool sword, and she just... there's so many cool things they could have done with her, and it's really disappointing to not see her as a character. But I just knew that, like, obviously they'd have Eve. Lily is like the shoe-in for the free character, and knowing how popular Raven is, they're going to make her the other character. And so, unfortunately, Tacky got shuffled to the side, which is by far the worst thing about this collaboration announcement for me. Don't get me wrong, I'm hyped. I'm sure it's going to be a great collab. It looks like they put in a ton of work into doing some really cool things here, but I'm really sad and disappointed to not see Tacky. So, devs, if you're watching this, bring us a part 2, okay? You better put Tacky in this game. It's a huge missed opportunity if you don't. That's all I gotta say. Anyway, overall, I'm super hyped. We're about to get this. Let me know what you're looking forward to most, and I will see you guys back on stream in a few minutes. All right, catch you guys later.